So if any of you have questions on rollup or AltLayer, please raise your questions on this session. Welcome, Gokhan. Welcome, Yaoqi.
Yeah, you want to sit? Yeah, hello everyone. So we're waiting for Robert from the AltLayer Foundation, and in the meantime, I'm gonna ask some of the questions about rollups overall to Yaoqi. If you guys have any questions, also let us know. Happy to answer those. Thanks a lot for the presentation, Yaoqi. I think one of the first things maybe I'm interested in, and you mentioned that, like Arbitrum optimism, right? They're actually not too far away from stage 2 rollups. With Arbitrum, maybe there's some like technical things that they're still waiting for. What keeps them away from implementing at this point? It seems like just like a couple of, more governance decision than anything like technical. Just if you could shed a bit more light on that, that would be interesting.
Yeah, as I mentioned, right, so far, I think the technical blocker will just be for all the rollup, we need some multi-prover system, right? And for OP, at least they have a bunch of teams working on these, as I mentioned, right, the ZK proof or validity proof or this ZK fault proof system for optimism, right? Like the Succinct, RACER0, and Nebra. So in that case, I think, as you mentioned, right, for OP, basically, it's much easier for them to move forward to this stage 2. And for Arbitrum, but for both of them, as I just mentioned, right, we need their security council to really sort of config this extra delay, like from 7 days to 30 days. But of course, there are some considerations on their side, right? We are closely following up with their technical team. We can see that either for OP and Arbitrum, they actively pushing new updates and basically new features into either OP stack or Arbitrum orbit. So I just feel like probably that's a reason why they don't really want to enable this longer, like sort of delay when they do the upgrade, because there's just so many new updates. So for example, OP is mainly focusing on their interop for the superchain, right? That part, basically, I believe for the past few months and also the upcoming few months, they really spend a lot of efforts on that. And also for this Arbitrum side, right? They have, right, the stylus. They also stylus for WASM. They also have this upcoming, basically this super fast bridge between the L3 and also L1. So these are the things I believe they spend a lot of time on. Of course, technically, I would say they also have some bunch of teams and working on either this ZK or TE sort of proof systems. I don't think right now the technical blocker is that huge. It's just like it takes a little bit of time. But once these sort of these major updates they have into their repo or into their current master branch, that'll be good. Like they can probably finish all the major upgrades, and then they can, at least on the non-technical side, they can quickly move to the next stage. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks a lot. Maybe another question is about while we're talking about all these rollups launching, right? And obviously there are many rollup as a service companies just making it very easy to one-click launch these. Maybe if you could share some insights about like how difficult it is to maintain what Base is doing at this point as an L2. How difficult, and obviously Base, Uniswap, when they're launching their own L2s, they're making a lot of customizations to the chain. So it's not easy. But then I think if you could give us an idea to maintain these chains once they're launched, like what sort of an infrastructure investment are we looking at? Is it something that all the developers should consider, or is it only after some stage that it makes sense?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So far, like I would say, either us and the other sort of rollup providers, we already make this deployment of a rollup is as straightforward as possible, and also OP Arbitrum and all these ZK rollup teams, they are basically spending a lot of time on improving their rollup stacks to make it as easy as possible for developers to launch. So right now, I think back to the point, right? The difficulty to launch a rollup is right now, I think, is just minimal. For some developers, who are having a lot of experience in blockchains, right? I believe it probably take him or her a few days just to launch a rollup. The tricky part is really about the maintenance and also the cost. We did a lot of this sort of research and also measurement on the cost and on manpower, infrastructure, especially for maintenance, right? You launch one is very straightforward, but how about, like as I mentioned to you, right? Every week they have some major updates. So after that, you probably need to upgrade from old version to a new version. And during this upgrade, right? Typically they don't have like the detailed instructions. And sometimes there's some caveats and hidden bugs, right? If you trigger that, can you quickly fix it? If you can't, like basically your chain probably will be stuck there. So that's a part, like at least on manpower side, right? For the maintenance, you need some experts in rollups or blockchains. Like once there's something wrong, you can basically help to fix it, especially for the upgrade. And beyond that, it's about cost. And for cost, right? So for us, for the other like providers, we typically have some special like sort of deal with cloud service providers. And so in that case, the cost can be minimal compared to, for example, you have your own team, you set up everything yourself, right? Also for the maintenance. And sometimes, as I mentioned, right, it's about this SLA and also liveness guarantee. So in that case, it's not that straightforward. For example, for the existing rollup, right, we can say that, okay, you spin off one in a few minutes, that's good. But after that, for example, how about the RPC? How about the Explorer? How about the bridge? And as I mentioned, right, you need to upgrade and some issues, and then all these services, as I just mentioned, right, you also need to make sure they have this very good SLA, like probably 99% none, something like that. So in that case, right, you have to put a lot of efforts on make sure these services are fun. So these services are not on the rollout deployment. It's like, for example, how you make sure your RPC service is so strong. You can handle probably like tons of thousands requests per second. And that's definitely not something like the existing like sort of a rollout team they can provide, or they can give you the guidance. So that's something like basically on our side, we typically automatic deployment for the rollout is just the first step. It's really about the maintenance. And also cost, you need constantly make it very low. And beyond that, you know, right, it's also about ecosystem. You go through us, right? We have like probably 200 or 300 partners on Wallet, Bridge, Explorer, and also DeFi game, so we can introduce to you. But if you start everything yourself, right, you have to find all the partners by yourself. So in the end, as you mentioned, right, it really in the end, it's about the cost or the budget. If you are a very big project, like a Base or Uniswap or some big ones, right? Definitely host everything themselves because they have the budget, they have the manpower. They also want to have everything in-house, right? Especially for the customization. But for some like sort of this small or medium scale team, right? If they want to launch a rollout for their applications or for their ecosystem, right? That won't be that straightforward. It'd be great to like sort of go through us or some professional providers. So first, with a limited budget, we can provide the deployment, and beyond that, with sort of with a minimum cost, we can also maintain this the RPC, Bridge, Explorer, all these services for them. So as you can see, right, I just feel like right now we're at that stage, like everything becomes like sort of a commodity in infrastructure space. A few years ago, if you like launch a rollout so difficult, or use ZK so difficult. But right now, as I mentioned in the talk, right, everything becomes a commodity. Everyone has basically the opportunity to choose different combinations of different rollout stacks, DAs, and also proof systems. But in the end, it's about the cost and budget. So what's your budget on basically maintaining this rollup, basically building a team, or even you outsource to us, right? So how you want to onboard like sort of multi other partners together with us, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Maybe another question I have is, I think in the recent AMA on Reddit, someone asked that, like, Base is talking about all this like 1 gigabyte block size, right? That they want to come up to. And I think Vitalik or someone else was making the math that it could actually enable 10K transactions per second. But that is assuming that all the block size of Ethereum DA actually is consumed by this one rollup, right? And if you look at like the main reason people are using rollups is scalability. And at this point, we're at 260 TPS. Yes, this is 10x, 20x more than what Ethereum L1 is doing, but also nowhere near close to get the real adoption from the like masses. So what do you think is the path to 10K TPS? Like how realistic that is? I know the roadmap is in that direction. If you would have to guess, like maybe the steps taken there, like maybe 2,000 and then 5,000, like when are we going to reach these milestones, you think?
I still feel like that's also something like as I mentioned, right? In the past months in Chiang Mai, I had a lot of dinners conversation with Vitalik. He also showed this blog post before he posting on his account. I just feel like he's quite conservative on the numbers because he only considered the rollups who post the data to Ethereum. But you know, right? We have so many alternative DAs, and with all the DAs, like from the L2 bit, I think over half or even more than half of rollups they don't use Ethereum as a DA. So for me, I just feel like he's quite conservative on the throughput for Ethereum right now. If we consider like sort of the rollups using Ethereum as a settlement layer, doing bridging and probably also proof verification, but not using Ethereum using as a DA, right? I think easily we can achieve probably millions of transactions per second. You get my point, right? Because the dependency on Ethereum is very minimal. It's only like sort of if something wrong, we post the proof on Ethereum and it does the verification. But then back to the point, right? So when people, especially the other ecosystem project as us, like do you think still like Ethereum has the scalability issue? I just feel like not really right now. At least throughput wise, we really have all the sort of numbers we want. And if we look at Orbi, right? Arbitrum, right now the block time is less than 250 milliseconds. It's faster than Solana. And during some sort of internal testing, we can also achieve high throughput than Solana using the existing like sort of rollup stacks. So I don't think this throughput is sort of a problem for Ethereum anymore. But it's back to the point as you mentioned, right? That's why like last week we discussed about these AI agents and all the application, right? So I think right now it's basically we need to really find more applications. If you look at the existing rollout, right? They can easily achieve like 1,000 or 2,000 TPS, but if you look at numbers on L2B, basically the throughput we have right now is less than 100. So that's a problem. So we already have a lot of block space, a lot of block space, right? But what kind of application we can run on top of it? So and then that's also another observations when I had the conversations with a lot of projects. I figure out okay, so right, especially from the project in Hackathon or Hacker House, I just feel that right now developers still have this kind of mindset. We can only deploy smart contracts. They just feel like okay, even for the smart contract, right? We can only wait for this kind of confirmation from Ethereum. So there are still like 12-second latency or something like that. So people still feel that that's the sort of limitations for the developers in Ethereum ecosystem. However, I always told them now it's very straightforward to launch a sort of rollup. You don't really have all the limitation anymore. Like sometimes you don't even need to write a Solidity code. You can write whatever code and put into an AVS, and you can also use different OVM rollups, right? So you don't have the limitations. But I would say, like, right now, still most of the developers, they haven't really recognized this change so far. As you mentioned, right? Throughput is no longer a problem. Let's build some mass adoption mobile applications. Like, let's build some crypto native Grab, crypto native bot. Let's build some crypto native Airbnb. So basically right now the throughput is no longer a problem. But the real problem I would say is really about like how we really onboard the new developers to build these kind of very ambitious crypto native and internet scale applications. It's not about like sort of the existing DeFi or existing application we built due to the constraints of Ethereum, but it's really about like how about this future, like sort of oriented and assume there's no more throughput limit. It's as good as Web2, probably sometimes even faster and cheaper. So let's build the next generation crypto native, like sort of internet scale applications. But right now, when we just came back from a bunch of hacker halls, we just feel like people are still stick to the old like sort of mindset of from the past few crypto cycles. People just want to build like let's improve AMM. Let's build a better like, sort of NFT marketplace. Let's build some perp exchanges. Let's build some basically new like sort of deep in projects or social applications. But people haven't thought like, okay, assume this crypto is no longer the bottleneck for the technology, and it gives you much cheaper. You also have the crypto incentives. How we build the next generation social app or next generation application everyone can use. Yeah.
Like you're working with almost all of the technology providers in this space, right? When a developer or a company comes to you, they're like, hey, we want to launch our roll app. Could you assist us in this process? Do they have any tech providers in their mind usually? Or is it like an exploration process where you give them the options and they have to figure it out? Or do they usually have an opinion and they want to build on this and you're basically giving them the ways to do it?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like early this year, I would say it's a half-half. Basically, we either have the new inbounds or we have some recharge, and basically half of them introduced by the rollup stack providers like OP Arbitrum or probably some ZK rollup like this CDK, and the other half basically from like sort of our own connections, and we can recommend what kind of rollup stacks we provide for them. But however, right now I would say most of these new, I would say 80% of the new inbounds are actually introduced by either the rollup stack providers or the DA provider. So in that case, they typically have their preference because usually they already signed some grants and also some sort of these partnership, right? So. But then at the same time, as you can see, right, some of the projects want to launch something urgently, so they may switch from one rollup stack to another rollup stack. But in general, I would say so far it's still the rollup stack providers. They are a little bit dominant in basically in this space. And a lot of projects, to be honest, it's not their preference on rollup stack is not about this technical decision, like okay, which stack is much better than the other rollup stack. As I mentioned, right now most of this stuff becomes like sort of the commodity. So in that case, right, the decision maker really want to figure out like, okay, what are the non-technical like advantages or benefits they can get. For example, financially, can we get tokens from you? You check out the Kraken case, right? The OP offered, I think, over 20 million OP tokens to them, and also a lot of these CDK or ZK Sync project, right? Like for example, this I remember it's a Lens Protocol or someone they also got a big grant from the yes. So that sort of is typically a non-technical decision, and beyond that, it's also about the support. For example, if I use your rollup stack, right, I'll use your DA. What kind of marketing support you can help us? Can we together do AMA? Can we do event together? And can you introduce some more clients for us? So far, I would say technical wise, the impact on the decision making of a project to choose with rollup stack or DA is less than probably 10%. Like as you can see, right, 90% of this decision making process is really based on these non-technical parts, which like people can offer for this project. It seems to us, right? We typical as a provider, we need to offer like not just the technical stuff, not like this rollout deployment, not the maintenance. They also want to be in our event. They also want to basically the different introduction from us to the VCs also the partners, and also some marketing opportunities. Yeah.
And like speaking of commoditization of this stack, I think looking back a couple of years ago, there was the fraud proofs and then the ZK proofs, and I think it would be the case that people would launch TE L2s, right? But then now it is at the point where you got OP stack and there are multiple provers all working for the OP stack.
Yeah.
So one specific question actually. So if you have structures like OP stack getting proven through succinct, does that make it like a native ZK rollup versus the ZK rollups like, let's say, ZK Sync and Starkware, right? Where the proof generation happens and they have this customized circuit. Like, how does this two structure compete with each other? Does the OP stack through succinct, can we call it actually a ZK rollup as well in this case?
Yeah, so the thing is like right now, even with succinct or RISA 0, probably also Nibra, and we have this different variant of OP stack, right? Here I want to basically specify a bunch of these different definitions. So we all know like OP has this superchain, right? So if you want to fit into this superchain, it typically has some specific criteria and requirements. Basically, if you want to go into this standard tier or standard charter, right? You can't change their code. You have to use a vanilla, like sort of OP stack, and you also need to fit into all the parameters they have for all the superchain. For example, block time has to be 2 seconds, and you have to post the data to Ethereum. And there are also a bunch of requirements on sort of these rollups fit into the superchain. And beyond that, we also have the other tiers in the superchain. They also have some tiers not into this standard tier or standard charter, but you can use alternative DA. And also some tiers you can use like sort of succinct or the other proof system. Yeah. So in that case, as you can see, right, if we don't discuss about these like standard tier, standard charter, and if we discuss about these variants from this OP stack, right? There's OP succinct, there's OP RISA 0, OP Nibra, there's OP automata on the TE. So, and in that case, right, even for the OP succinct or this kind of ZK proof system, it has minimum 1 or 2 options. One is, as you can see, right? Okay, they change the smart contract. Make sure like, okay, they change the proof system. Basically, we replaced the fault proof system with the ZK validity proof system. So in that case, I would say it's exactly the same as a normal ZK rollup. So it's basically all the proof generated by the prover and posted to Ethereum and do a verification, and then you can do the withdrawal. So there's no more 7-day challenge period. However, for a lot of the project, at least we talk to, they prefer use this hybrid mode. It's still fraud proof, but as I mentioned, right, once there's a challenge, we leverage sort of ZK prover generates the proof for this kind of the past few blocks, and then we let the L1 to arbitrate, like sort of like who wins and who lose. You get my point, right? So that's sort of like this kind of hybrid optimistic ZK proof. So in that case, I as you can see, right, it's it really depends on like sort of the client or the project, what kind of mode they want to choose. They want to choose OP's fraud proof mode. They want to choose this kind of ZK validity proof mode, or they want to choose ZK fraud proof mode. And at the same time, right now is one more option, as you mentioned, right? TE prover. So that's why right now I said like everything has become commodity. We can like all the projects have the freedom to choose what kind of combination of the proof system they want. So previously, none of us really highlight, okay, we can really get the roll up into stage 2 since day 1. But right now, since most of these, I would say these proof systems are actually production ready. So now the project really have the freedom to directly choose the multi-prover system since day 1. So they can direct into this stage 2. But as back to your question, right? It's no longer just like, okay, you only have one option to choose, but right now it's just it's so diversified, and you can have multi-prover. You can also change this proof system, change the frequency for, like, for example, how frequent you want to post your ZK proof, and It's so in the end, as I mentioned earlier, right? It's still about the budget. Everything becomes a commodity. If you have a lot of budget, let's just do this ZK validity proof. Probably if you have more budget, let's just make it as frequent as possible. We can engage with tons of thousand GPUs to generate the proof within a few minutes. It's doable right now. It's feasible. So in that case, you can see, right? Okay, we do this ZK proof system. It's as fast as like the normal, like sort of optimistic rollup. You get my point, right? It's just like the cost. How about the cost? Probably every month you need to pay $100,000 for the proof system. You need to pay another $200,000 for the proof verification on Ethereum. But right now, most of them are production ready. You can just choose whatever you want. If you have less budget, less than 3,000, just use a standard OP stack with the fraud proof. But if your budget is super high, let's just use ZK. Or sometimes you're in the middle, let's do a hybrid mode. Yeah.
I think one of the topics that we want to discuss was like distribution versus the tech, right? Is it about the distribution? Is it about the tech? And what you're saying is basically the block space is not constrained anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like any L2, any chain could actually scale if they wish to, any L2 specifically. And then within that context, I think what I wanted to ask is like ZK technology has been something like that we all considered as a game-changing thing, right? And it is playing out a little bit slower as the tech is much more complicated over there. And in the meantime, many of the optimistic rollups have made strides where they're actually onboarding users and companies like enterprises to their ecosystem. I think in terms of that, it seems to be on the distribution side, the game is also already taking shape, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe one question is, do you think there are any other upcoming maybe tech innovations, disruptions that might change this game? Like is ZK being the end game a strong sort of like argument that this distribution might be disrupted? Curious what you think about that.
So far, I would say, based on the conversations we have either with these rollup stack providers and also these applications, right? We just feel like ZK definitely becomes like sort of this game changer when we talk about these kind of multi-proof systems or at least for the rollup space, right? Previously, nothing was possible like a few years ago. You know, it was so expensive, like sort of it's so like basically slow. But right now, at least we can make it super fast. Yeah, it's just like it's still relatively expensive compared to like the system without ZK. But you know, right, there's a bunch of projects and also some of them are IOSG portfolio, right? This kind of project, they work on this hardware improvement, just try to speed up everything for these like sort of the ZK technologies. I would say so far, at least for rollup, I would say with all the ZK's improvement and also all the breakthrough, right? We already make this ZK rollup and also this ZK proof system as a commodity. It just depends on what kind of budget you have. And then we can tap this ZK proof system into the rollup. And beyond that, I would say whether it can really drive the future, it still takes the time, I would say. Can we make it as cheap and as fast as a non-ZK system? If that's possible, that would be great. But at the same time, I would say, beyond ZK, we still have the other technology, right? Like TEE, also a bunch of LSG portfolio, LSG, the FHE. And these are basically something I would say can also help this project in the future to have this security, safety at the same time, also performance at the same time. So in that case, that would be great. Like as I mentioned, right? We can have some combination, more choices for developers. But in the end, I don't think this hardcore technology is sort of this sort of like the blocker for our space anymore. I always send a message to Vitalik. I just feel like you did all the great job. I don't know why people still fire you. You really fulfill the commitment you made like a decade ago. Like in crypto space, right? I mean, very few projects can last for over 10 years, but Ethereum is like sort of the magic. But still, right? As I mentioned, right? No more blockers. I just feel like right now the most urgent thing is to change the mindset of developers, especially application developers. Let them let them know that, okay, right now for crypto, for Web3, we really don't have this kind of throughput blocker anymore. You just do whatever you want, and you will always find at least some projects or have some tools to make everything super smooth and to make it work, right? So in that case, you just need to focus on what kind of application logic you can do, you know, and that's, I believe, that's the most important, most urgent thing we need to do, just to like all the developers to understand, okay, let's just build whatever we want in blockchain, not forget about this previous super long block time, latency, cost, whatever.
All right. Maybe just like one last question regarding like 5 years forward, right? What sort of an ecosystem are we looking at? Without giving any names, but is it like one L2 stack, maybe dominating it, multiples of them? Is it one centralized enterprise L2 that is actually getting all the transaction volume and users? Like, what do you see? What we're looking at?
My expectation, like after 5 years, so we will just have, for general purpose L2, so we will just have probably top 5 or top 10. It's similar to the previous public blockchain, I mean the L1's landscape. But beyond that, I would say in 5 years, all these biggest applications, they will have this blockchain infrastructure, but it will be quite transparent. Like people won't really experience like what kind of blockchain infrastructure they're using. For example, Polymarket. In the future, we'll just have more Polymarket-like applications. This blockchain infrastructure will just become like transparent to all the users, I mean the retail users, but they are basically backing all the fancy crypto-native applications in the future. That's something I can see like, okay, general purpose, we probably just have a few, but most of the application in the, like the backbone underlying infrastructure will be either roll up or something different for blockchain, but people won't really have any like sort of experience directly on this blockchain infrastructure. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Yaoqi, for all your insights. That's all for this session.
Yeah. Thanks for your great questions. Really enjoy it. Thank
Okay.
you.